Hey, this is Peggy with Easy Peasy Machine Embroidery, and we are in Premier+2 Ultra. And today we're going to attempt to show you how to create your own needle organizer. I want to put a caveat here. I am no professional, so you will see it as I do it, and you'll see my mistakes as I create them. So bear with me, and here we go. We're going to create a pincushion that looks something like this, and you will be able to customize it according to what needles you use. If you only use 4 needles, you would only make 4 grids. If you use 10 needles like I do, then you're going to make 10 grids. Okay, and here's another one. This is basically something that you would make into a needle book. However you wanted to make the outside, you would stitch down the center line of both of these and make it just like a book. So let's begin. So we are in the Premier+2 Ultra program, and I would like you to go down into the tulip, which is the Create module. And here we're going to create our own customized project, so we're just going to hit cancel. And I have found that for this project, I would like to have a 0.25, and I'm going to hold down the shift and the quote key. So 0.25 inches. And I'm also going to change my hoop so that it is the 120 by 120. So there is my grid. And we're going to go into the Precise Create module right here. Remember to set your grid, it was in the View module. And we're going to turn off the pattern fill. We're going to change the satin line to a double stitch. And then we're going to grab Create Area or Line. And basically what I'm going to do is I'm going to create, and I'm going to hold down the Control key, and I'm going to use the grid to make my, whoops, and then I'm just going to move that one up there to overlap it. I'm going to make the adjustments that I think I need to use to make this square. And I'm going to right click, and that turns it into a stitch. From there, I am going to make a line across here, and this will be the title of whatever needle style I'm using. And then I am, depending on what sizes I'm going to use, some needles only have 3 sizes, some have 4 or 5 different sizes. So say I was using embroidery needles, and I'm going to just do 2 sizes. So I'm going to do a line here and here, and then I'm going to come over here and straighten that out just a little bit. And notice how when I did this, I went from here to here, and then I went over here and then up, rather than from here to the top and then down, because that would create a big jump stitch, and I don't want that. So there is my first grid. And I can do a color change. I'm going to move this over here. I'm going to do a color change now just because I like to be able to see what I'm doing. And I'm going to do the same thing. Remember, the color change will happen under the last block that is highlighted over here on the film strip. So I'm going to click on my color change because I want to add some other things underneath. And I like this style, so I am going to group it as a group. I'm going to check something here. Alright, that's what I wanted. We're going to group it. And I'm going to copy it. I'm going to add my color change by right-clicking over the last item on the film strip. I'm going to turn that into orange. And click on that orange and say paste. And then I'm going to slide this. This is a left click. I'm going to slide that on over. And remember, I can click on different sections and say properties and change things if I wanted to change double stitch or whatever. And I can click on, I'm going to ungroup that. And I'm going to click on the line that I want to work on. And I can actually, so say I wanted to do universal needles, I might want to move this one over. And this one over. And go back and get my create liner area. And then go over here, up. Okay. And then I would do the same thing down here. I could create a different grid. I could do whatever I want here. I could do, I'm going to ungroup this up here. And then I could do a Control and an A for all. And then I could say group that. And copy that group. And I'm going to go down to the bottom. I'm going to add another color change. Just so I can see what I'm doing. And I'm going to click on that last item on the film strip and say paste. Now I can move that down here. Line it up. And now I can ungroup everything or whatever I want to do. Okay, I've ungrouped everything up there and ungroup up there. There we go. So now I ungroup things so that I can go back in and change things if I wanted to by just clicking on that line. I can rearrange things. I can add other columns if I need to, whatever. I can also delete lines just by right-clicking over here and hitting delete. So there's all different ways to do this. And once I get things about how I want it, I'm going to do a save as, and I have a folder here called Sewing Organizer. So I'm going to put P2 book style. Okay, and that is going to create an EDO file, which is a file that I can go back in and change to suit my needs later on. And now I'm going to do an export embroidery. And same thing, I'm going to go down here to the sewing organizer, and I'm just going to leave it named P+2 book style exported. Make sure I'm in my sewing organizer file. I'm going to bring the Premier+2 Ultra software back up, file, and we're going to do a open or insert, and there it is. And you got to remember, I am in the 120 by 120. You could make this any size you wanted, okay? And now what I'm going to do is I'm going to go get lettering, and I want a lettering that is going to be, I'm going to back up here and show you what I'm doing here. I'm going into Font Manager in the Lettering tab. And I'm going to say I want some kind of lettering that is about 5 millimeter, give or take 5. Okay. So, and I know that I probably want something that is going to be more of a script-like lettering. Let's turn this down a little bit. Still not what I want. There, line block. That's what I want. Narrow block would also work probably, but I'm going to go with line block. And I am going to turn that up to 6 and see what it looks like. Looks okay. The other thing I'm going to mention here is that when you are stitching this out, when you're doing fine lettering like this, you need to use bobbin thread. So use your black bobbin thread to stitch out the lettering. You can do the grids in regular embroidery thread, but the lettering itself probably needs to be bobbin thread. And before let's see, if I want to minimize my jump stitches, I'm going to say 75. And if it is a pain in the butt to move it up, use your zoom. That will give you the grid. And here again, you can do a copy. And it shows up here. I did a Control-C for copy. And I'm going to do a Control-V as in Victor for paste. And I'm going to move that over here. And I'm going to right-click over it while it still has the boxes. And I am going to do, where are you? Properties. I just did this in Premier in the My Sonnet, and it's just a little bit different. So 90. So there you go. And then you could go up to Super Design, and you could make sure you've got all there and type in so. And there you go. You can add a needle and thread over here. I'm going to shrink it. Okay, and there we go. That's how you'd set that type of a needle booklet up. You would just put 2 or 3 of these sewn on felt or muslin or whatever you want to sew it on, and then you'd sew all 3 of them together using the center line. And then what I would do is sew it into like a little fabric cover. Okay, so that is the one style. The second style, which is going to look just like a pincushion, and I used t-shirt on the back, an old t-shirt on the back of this, so it would give it a little bit more stretch, a little bit more room. And the other thing that I did, and now that I've forgotten what I was going to say, make sure you use bobbin thread when you're stitching out your lettering. And I am going to delete all that. So, here again, my grid is set to 1/4 of an inch, and 1/4 of an inch is 6.4 millimeters. We're going to be in Precise Create on this one. And I am going to use Create Liner Area. Make sure pattern fill is off. I'm going to use a double stitch to start out with, and a couple different ways you can do this. I'm going to go around the outside first, and I'm going to hold my shift key down as I make my corners, because if I don't do that, watch what happens. Oops. Shoot. There's a line that I don't want. I'm going to move him right back up there. Okay. I'm going to show you, just for kicks and giggles, what happens when you don't do the shift key. You end up with round, curvy corners. Okay. And I don't want that, so I'm just going to go over to my film strip over here and right click and say delete. Alright, so now I need to decide how many grid lines I want and things like that. And remember, when you do this, it is going to stitch out exactly how you have your stitches drawn. So I'm going to start right here and go down here, and then I'm going to go over here and up here, and I'm going to go here and down here, here and up here, and here and here. Ooh, guess what? Oops. We're going to get rid of that line. So we're going to right click over here on the film strip and say delete. And we are going to go 1, 2, 3. Right click to make the stitch. Left click, right click to make the stitch. And I can actually go back here to the the outside. And I can scooch this closer if I want. Oops, you know what happened. Hold down that control key. Alright. And we're okay. So, alright. And then, depending on how many styles of needles you need, we're going to, at the very top, we're going to make a line across. So this is going to be where you're going to put your sizes of needles. If you need another grid line, then you need to figure that out ahead of time and maybe only do your lines down every 2. Because remember, this is just going to be a pincushion. You're probably just going to put one needle in there while it's waiting to be put back into the machine. These are very handy for things that maybe you use a denim needle and you're only going to use it once to sew up one little tiny thing on a pair of jeans, and you're not going to use that denim needle to go back in and do embroidery, so you just stick it in this pincushion. So, anyway. So say you had, let's say, I'm going to go here. And over. And over. And there you go. And again, we could scooch this up. We could rearrange this just a little bit to add another grid at the bottom, or we could do the outside corner and go back up here and keep forgetting to hold that control key down. Okay, so there it is. Oops, now I see what happens. So I can scooch that back up. I'm just going to click on the line with a left click. Move that up there. Okay, so this will be my needle sizes. This will be my styles of needles. And we're going to do a save as. And now we're going to call it pincushion. Okie dokie. It's going to be an EDO file, so you can go back in and change things later on if you need to add more or less grids or thicknesses of the top lines, whatever you want to change. And now we're going to do an export embroidery. And we're going to say OK here, and pincushion exported. Export that. I always save as an EDO file when I'm doing this, so I can go back and rearrange things. And we're going to go insert or open. Doesn't matter on this type style. So there's your pincushion exported. I can center it. The other thing that I forgot something. So I'm going to go back in to the little tulip. This time I'm going to say load existing file design. And we're going to go to the desktop, to my sewing organizer, to my pincushion, and say finish. And right here, I'm going to right click. I am going to, how do I want to do this? I'm going to do an X. I am going to, actually, you know what? I'm going to do a copy. And I'm going to put it down here and do a paste. Now I'm going to right click. I'm going to go into properties. Right now it's a double stitch. I want it to be a satin line. I'm going to hit apply. I'm going to say OK. Now I can go up here and delete that section because I don't need it there anymore. There's my satin line. I can do a couple of things here. I can make that thinner by clicking on it and right-clicking and going into properties, and I can say I would like it to be 3 millimeters instead of 4. And the other thing I'm going to do is, I'm in the Home tab. I'm going to go to Modify Block, and I'm going to say Scale to fit the hoop. So, that just made it bigger. Sometimes it's going to say it's too big to fit in the hoop, so I'm going to say export. See, it's too large, so it will not fit in the hoop. If you ever run into that, you're going to go into Modify Block and do Scale to Fit Hoop, and it will change it just enough to make it fit. And I'm going to do a Control Z to put things back where they were. And now I'm going to do File, Save As. Actually, we've saved it once already, so we can just hit Save. File, Export, and pincushion exported. We're going to overwrite that. Say yes. So we've saved it as an EDO. We've saved it as a regular embroidery file. We're going to go Insert, pincushion exported. We're going to go into lettering. And 6 millimeter looks okay. Do that. Copy, paste, Control C, Control V, properties, oops, 80, Control C, Control V, properties, 90, Control V. Yes, that was a Control C and Control V. Properties again, and 100. Those of you who use big denim needles a lot, you would probably have 5 grids there. And then universal, staying with the 6 millimeter. And properties, I'm gonna say those are really close together. That's the one thing about the new software, you don't have to tab through everything to get where you're going. So there's universal, and so on and so forth. Embroidery. And again, this lettering needs to be stitched on with bobbin thread. Otherwise, you will run into problems. So you get the hang of it, and when you're done, you do File Save As, stitch it out, and then I just attach my t-shirt material or stretchy material on the back and sew it on right through here, this satin line, right over that satin line to attach it, leaving a hole. And I actually use walnut shells that you can find in like your pet stores. The crushed walnut shells, it'll be in the reptile section. It's a lot cheaper to use them than to buy the shells themselves at the sewing stores. Okay, so hope you understand how to do this, and this is Peggy signing out. Remember to subscribe and like and leave comments. Thank you. Bye-bye.